nobody doing it like us.
Yeah.
Hold on, we can't give Valentino absolutely any play. You were out the camera, Jack.
No free advertising, baby.
Pull up,
No
but
free advertising.
GG, homegrown, you can get it.
Homegrown.
GG can
Because
get it.
that's the vibe about this whole
You feel me?
episode.
Where they from?
Is
Worcester?
homegrown.
All right, we're here, episode 5, Credo Conversations. We got a couple special guests here in the building. We got our man Coco, owner of Mobar Cuts, and his side homie, Sammy. Homegrown from Waltham. We've known these dudes for a long time, so it means a lot having you guys on the pod. We appreciate you.
Appreciate your time, boys.
Thanks for
Um,
having us.
Of course.
First off, we just want you guys to kind of give the intro on yourselves. Tell us a little bit about each of you. What's important to you just in terms of your why we're here. Just give us a little bit on yourselves.
So, as most of you guys might know, my name is Coco. I'm the creator and founder of Mobar Cuts. A little bit more about my why. A little bit of it is Waltham for sure. You know what I mean?
100%.
So, shout out to Waltham. I moved here when I was about 12 years old, and I'm really glad I did because it helped me kind of strengthen a lot of outside relationships that I had already made, and really grateful for the area, grateful for the people around me. So my why is my family, my business, unity, community, and that's it. I just like to live life kind of at my own pace. And
I love it.
I love that.
Sammy?
Sam, Coco's brother-in-law. I know you guys from school, so
Yes,
we're
sir.
about the same age. And yeah, my why was with him, rode with him always. So.
Always, right?
Yeah.
So take us back to like the beginning, boys, right? Coco, I feel like this more directed towards you because this is your thing, this is your passion, your life, right? Take us back to the beginning when you first started cutting hair, or even if like your first kind of entrepreneurial journey, like the start of that journey. Like, what was that like? How did it begin? And going from there to where we are now, kind of how we got here.
oof, I mean,
If you could summarize it in a few sentences, you know what I mean?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So, I'm gonna go back to right around 7th grade, where you know what I mean. Like, some of my passions started to become a little bit more prominent, and in the 6th grade, actually, I saw my cousin buy a pair of the Allen Iverson shoes, the I3 Pressures or something like that.
Tough.
And
Tough shoes.
so I started to pay a lot of attention to like basketball culture, and like this was when Jadakiss made the song with the the crossover and the beat in basketball.
Yep.
So that was kind of like a molding point for some of my interests, and right around that time was where I started to I was leaving Newton. I was coming straight into Waltham. I had previously moved from Watertown, and when I got to McDevitt Middle School, I was the first 7th grade class at McDevitt Middle School, and when I went to Foot Locker, there was the Foot Locker in the Arsenal Mall. I mean, a lot of you guys probably remember with the with the scoreboard and the food
Yes,
court
sir.
and everything. Yeah. So when I went in there, I saw the sale rack. You know how they have the socks and whatever. They had the headbands, wristbands, socks, everything. And everything was $1, but everything on, the retail was like 8, 10, 12. This was when Carmelo, everything, the Jordan brand was huge. So I bought the whole bucket. And when I bought the bucket, I brought it back to McDevitt.
Yeah.
And everybody was giving me $5 per. So, I grabbed 20, 30, 40 pieces.
Yeah.
And I made a few $100s. It got to the point where the third day, when I was about to, offload everything, Mr. McGovern came to me and he was like, "Hey, Coco, listen, I understand what you're trying to do here, but we gotta wait until 2:30, and then you could sell your merch."
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like that
was your first hustle. That was the first hustle.
Yeah,
Young entrepreneur.
So doing stuff like that and really transitioning over into the world of 14, 15 years old. You know, the sidekicks first came out. Remember the sidekick
Yep.
flip? So um, I was working. I had just got my first job. I was like an Arsenal Mall kid. Like I
Mhm.
loved the Arsenal Mall. So I
Yes.
refer back to the Arsenal Mall a couple of times. So
Yeah.
you know, um, I started working with this guy named Mo. He had a kiosk, like a cart inside the Arsenal Mall, and he sold clothing. He sold like white T-shirts, mixtapes, fake Gucci,
Anything you
everything,
needed,
man.
right? It's a whole
Yeah,
bunch of different shit. Yeah.
I had all the hood DVDs, everything. So that was kind of like that was what I was doing. So fast forward into that time, this is like, I never really had any orthodox jobs. I wasn't bagging at Shaw's or anything
Yeah.
like that. I really saw this guy taking that step in his life, at 26, 27 years old. I didn't really think about it at the time because I was 14, 15. But just I was involved in like a deeper side of music and all these other things, and I'm hearing things and seeing things and conducting myself as an adult. And so I just kind of knew, like, I don't know if I was ever going to be led by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I just shaped myself based off of things that I seen, things that I endured,
Things that interest you.
things that interest me,
Yep.
things that I didn't want,
Mhm.
things that I did want.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, right around this time, this is when I really started to put my full, my head on gear. I'm thinking, like, how can I grow this? How can I do this? How can I grab this? And um, I guess I let ambition get the hold of me. You know what I'm saying? At
100%.
this time and at that age. So what I did was, when he was away, there was some guys there that came to buy some t-shirts, and later on down the line they ended up knowing him, and I sold the t-shirts for more money because there was no like price or anything
Yep.
like that. It was all up to me to negotiate.
Yep.
And he gave me that right to negotiate. But in this particular circumstance, I negotiated upwards and I made an extra cut on the top.
Yep.
So at this point, he was my big bro, and he was like, "Oh, bro, listen, I'm firing you. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna fire you now."
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, whatever. I took my loss, but that became my brother. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, down the line, and he never really penalized me for that. But at that time, he taught me the lesson of, overstaking my value and trying to be too slick. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta let things come to you.
Day by day.
Exactly.
One step in front of the other, right?
Yeah, but like I saw that, and I just thought about myself as a young entrepreneur, and I just knew that I was hungry, and that I at that to me it wasn't me doing anything wrong, because if he negotiates lower, then I'm not the bad guy. Like, he got a deal, and
Yep.
my boss still made his cut,
Yep.
so I wasn't doing anything that was really wrong. I didn't steal. I didn't say, you know what I mean, like, yo, oh, this was.
Yeah.
I told him exactly what it was, but when they came back and they told him what the price was, I didn't really mention how much because I knew what I had to sell it
Yeah.
for. So whatever, long story short. And then I moved into we'll go into the Facebook era, and
Not even MySpace,
not
Facebook
even-
first.
right past MySpace.
Yeah.
Right to
because
Facebook.
MySpace was right in between that downtime where I took what I had learned and the relationships that I was building over there, right in the center of Watertown, and dealing with a lot of people from the inner city that I
Mhm.
didn't know that later on would shape my entire relationships. I'll mention that. But
Yep.
it got to that point where 15, 16, 17, like right around 16, 17, I started to be known more on Facebook for, like, so selling anything: sneakers, clothing, household appliances, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever you could think of.
Yeah.
All
And this
trades.
was like not in competition with Craigslist at the time,
Yeah.
but like, I was just doing my thing. I wasn't Facebook Marketplace, but I got it from Coco.
Yeah.
Like, that was my page. That page still exists on Facebook. When
No
you go on
way.
Facebook,
Coco's
you
list.
can find. I got it from Coco.
Wait, what's it called? What's it
Yeah.
called?
I got it from Coco.
Oh, I got it. Oh, that's actually what it's called. Oh shit.
That's what it's called. And
Yeah.
so, like, you go and you see me in like a picture of some like white Aldo shoes with some glasses and a white T-shirt with some like a mohawk when I had hair.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, that was right around the time where it was like, okay, like, I'm doing my own thing. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
working for anybody, but I was still doing stuff at the Boys and Girls Club.
Mhm.
Now, and that shaped a lot of what I was doing. That made it so that, like, I could have got into doing other things that I really shouldn't have been doing. So
Mhm.
I was at the club a lot. So that that helped me too. So being a club kid throughout that time, when I turned 18 and it was time to graduate and get out of there and transition, I worked at the YMCA for a year. You know what I mean? So me and my one of my best friends, Frankie, he has a podcast as well.
Mhm.
Um, he's a Waltham kid, and he brought me in, and he was my boss and stuff like that. So it was cool. Like, you know, it was like part of like a time where I got to humble myself, and I was trying to figure out whether college was for me, or what was or wasn't.
Yep.
And yeah, that was like
That was
cool
like that
right
was like the
there.
time of your life where like you knew things were supposed to be changing at this point, but you didn't know exactly the
Yeah.
route you wanted to take.
Yeah,
Right?
so like, that's where I'll boom, like, that's where the stop on the childhood era really came into play, and then the next chapter of life right before I met bro, that's when everything really
Yeah.
Let me ask you though, Coke. So like you knew from a young age you had these skills. You were selling all those things at a super young age, probably younger than most people around you were starting to get into that like entrepreneurial spirit, right? So where was the transition point towards, all right, I want to specifically take this into being a barber and like getting into that field as opposed to anything else that you were doing
well.
in that when you were a little bit younger, you know? And I want to open that up to you too, Sam, is like what sparked you to get into that light as well? Because I know Coco was a
So
big
right,
light for you,
You're right.
but also you
Yeah.
got to have something deep in there as
Yeah,
well that
for
like
sure.
encouraged you to get there too. So
so what I'm about to say to you leads up right into boom, right where he kind
yeah,
of picked up the slack, and that was like, this was a solo mission. I that's one thing that I always notice about people in cliques and groups, and it's always been easy or easier, I'll say, because nothing's easy in Boston.
Right.
Everybody knows
You
that.
say that again, 100%.
Nothing's easy in Boston, and nothing's definitely easy coming from a place like Waltham, like a small suburb outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So the way that I look at it is I was really doing stuff, just driven based off my passion. All between this time, I was playing basketball every single day. Like I wouldn't miss my open run, didn't matter. Like wouldn't miss my leagues, didn't matter. So for me, it was more like right around that 20-year-old, 19 to 20, when I took that year off that I was telling you about at the YMCA. I was working at the YMCA. I had just graduated high school. My mom and I had a conversation, and she kind of like had always in my life always reiterated conversations of like, oh, you should do hair, you should do this,
Mhm.
cosmetology. She was like intrigued by, or she is intrigued by fashion and hair and cosmetology and stuff like that, and she always kind of like try to push me onto that. So this came to the time where I'm at Mass Bay Community College, and a lot of people probably heard this story, but like I used to cut hair outside for the basketball team and for other people that were just walking by. And to this point, I was so booked up doing haircuts outside of the cafeteria that
Yeah.
sometimes I was missing class.
Yeah.
So I eventually left Mass Bay, and a couple months before I left, I had, during that summer when I was about to go there for the first time, I had met my wife, Kat, and you know, I was I was in school. I was thinking about basketball. I never made the high school team. It was, Waltham has always been a little bit of a place that if you are, you are, and if you aren't, well, you just aren't. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So
100%.
I dealt with that, and I had to cope with that. And today, as a father of three, and my son growing up in the community,
Mhm.
I have to fight with it every single day.
Absolutely.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So not to touch too much on that, but you know, right around that time was when I started to look at, like, okay, I'm working at the mall, I'm doing odd end jobs, I'm done with the YMCA. My girlfriend and I just met. She's about to come back. I don't have time for practice anymore. Too many haircuts, too much is going on. I'm going over to Los Primos every single day. After I'm, taking the bus to Riverside, or taking the, train or whatever
Yeah.
back to from
The
Wellesley
hard
to,
way.
to
The hard
Waltham.
way.
Exactly. So I'm bringing my clippers in my bag, trying to cut people, stopping on the way. Like it was just a lot. So I had to really start to figure out what I was gonna do at that point. And at this time, he's a young kid. And when she first moves back from Florida, um, I was just like, dude, like we're not even nowhere near the age
Yeah.
gap. You know what I mean? At
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
time, when I'm 18, 19, 20, like 12, 13, like
Yeah,
okay,
right?
yeah,
How much older are you?
He's in
then?
middle school with us.
6 years
I'm
older.
6
Yeah,
years-
so
I'm
I was in
6
middle
years-
school with
yeah.
you.
Yeah,
middle
yeah,
school
yeah,
with
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Yeah, so having him like at that age gap, it was just like, but I now I'm looking at him, realize like his sister was only 2 years older, and I was only 3 years old, 3.5
Yeah.
years older than her, and
Yep.
now it's like we're brothers, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
we're best friends, but I'm starting to get a little old for him, but like so at that point, it was like, okay, I'm doing my thing now. I'm learning how to cut. I'm on this solo mission. I fast forward through all the 20, 22 Los Primos times, all that stuff. Like, you can touch on that if you want.
Shout out Los Primos,
Shout
though,
out
real
to Los
quick.
Primos.
Yeah,
Those are
we
definitely
still show them
Luis,
love.
Francisco,
You know.
my guys over
Yep,
there.
that's,
To this
that's where I
day.
started.
To
Francisco,
this day.
Francisco
Yep.
was the first guy that gave me a shot after Sule and Just Cuts. So I
Yep.
got to give Sule and Just Cuts
Absolutely.
a big shout out. Walt them legends.
Yeah.
All due
So,
respect.
For real.
yeah, Fritz, all those guys. I got to see guys like Keith Cut, Derek, Dome. I saw a lot of dope barbers growing up.
Mhm.
So, that was also a big piece of me, becoming what I became, because I really started to see at 15, 16, I was watching a lot of special guys that came from New York, from the Dominican barber scene, using razor blades, and they just, it was just so different. There was a
Yep.
guy named Gordo, and he was the barber.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he had clients that no matter what, they wouldn't leave him. And if he left and he came back, they'd be there. And if he went somewhere that was far, they'd find him.
Yep.
So you know what I mean? Like I got to kind of replicate that, and he was one of the only people to use the Andis Masters.
Yep.
And a lot of what I've built and developed was based off of the Andis brand, and kind of like, recently they started to do a campaign called Create Your Own Way, and I've always been a
like
firm
that.
believer in create your own way, and I've been creating my own way, and
100%.
I've been passing off a lot of things about this way and about this vision to my counterpart, and we've been doing great things with it.
Yes,
But
sir.
I guess I'll focus back in on that transitional time, and when I finally left the regular Spanish barbershop, Dominican barbershop scene, um, you know, 12 hours a day, sometimes 20, 30 cuts, $15.
Grinding.
People tip based off percentage.
Yep.
So you really kind of like, you are what you eat. Like you're getting what you put in, but not really,
Yeah.
because our industry hadn't changed at that point.
Yeah.
We've been through recession, we've been through this, we've been through everything, and there hasn't really been much of like a stake on the industry.
Mhm.
So right around this time, I think like, okay, I'm getting away from cutting hair. I'm trying different things. I'm having a downtime, just like a summer where I had saved up a little bit of money from cutting. I had just left VIP in Brighton. I was working with a bunch of great guys over there, John Black, Onasi, Edwin. Like, it was great. Moronito, bunch of good dudes. Um, so when I left there, I had a summer where me and Waltham legend Jason Janice,
Mhm.
Waltham,
Jay Boogs.
Waltham-
Jay
Jay
Boogs.
Shout them out.
Live in the
Shout
flesh.
them out. real
Shout out
quick.
Shout out
Jay
Jay
Boogs.
Boogs.
Come
Dead
on
ass.
now.
Yep.
Show
Now,
love.
Biondi Marisma, Waltham legend.
Yep.
Legend.
Shout
Waltham's
out-
finest.
Shout out Biondi, the real
The
Waltham's
real
finest.
Waltham's
You feel
finest,
what I'm
yes, sir.
saying? So Biondi, me, 2002 class, Ruben Telford, one of my brothers, he was with us that summer, and a friend of ours, Sadell Jones, he was one of Curry's finest.
Yep.
He played at UMass Amherst,
Mhm.
D1, and he was with us, and he has his King Bread brand, and we kind of all were that summer. We were just in like this transition of what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. Jay was at Bentley University,
Yep.
and he was trying to get to where he is now. And Biondi was, finishing off his stint playing pro football,
Yep.
and trying to get to where he is now. And Ruben and Sadell, they were trying to do their thing. Me, I was trying to figure out what my way of reintegrating back into the barbershop field was. And so
So you knew that you wanted to get back into
I
it.
knew I wanted to get
Yeah.
back into it, because in order to hustle and to grind and to make an honest living, and to do something that you've already put so much
Yeah.
power and so much passion into, and now you've got the vision for it. The only problem is that the game isn't right.
Yeah.
So what I've always been like the type of person, and I don't know if it's like the control freak in me or whatever, but I've always tried to go and dictate certain situations or change them up. And like I don't know, I'm just like that type of person. I like to help, I like to problem solve and stuff like that. So when I went back in and I tried to dissect the game for what it was and why I couldn't bear fruit from it and why other people couldn't bear fruit from it, I started to look into like how can I do this differently than anybody else?
Mhm.
So I started looking into like like the Ford Sprinter vans, and the Mercedes was out at that time, but there was a lot of the smaller ones, and I realized the smaller one didn't work, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go all in, and I went with, and my cousin he really believed in me. He was one of the only people that believed in me. Another friend that I was hanging out with at the time, he really believed in me, and we just went around just trying to make ends meet and trying to make this business come to life.
Yeah.
Everybody was just like, bro, what are you talking about? Just go open a barbershop. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, but I didn't want to do that. And especially like if I was gonna open a barbershop, I'm a very respectful person. And I would have done it in a place that I call home.
Absolutely.
So
But you don't want to step on toes.
there it is.
Yeah.
So I said, how am I gonna put a barbershop on that end of Main Street? How am I gonna put a barbershop on that
Yeah.
side of Moody Street? Like, you know what I mean? Like some of these guys that I have a lot of respect for, like it doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I started to look into it, and my cousin co-signed for me, and I bought a white Ford 2015 Sprinter van, and we spent a lot of nights in that van just talking, and all of us like listening to music and just vibing and just creating what this kind of shaped out to be. And a couple months later, we wrapped the van and stuff like that. We built it out, and that's how the mobile barbershop was born. I went and I took a $35,000 cash loan from you know what I mean, from somebody that was close to, and I had gotten denied at every bank that you could think of.
Mhm.
Every bank that you can think of denied. And I didn't realize at this point, and this is something that I put emphasis on as I push, some of my experience to the youth is, and especially transitioning right out of high school, is people don't think about debt to income. People just talk to you about credit
Yeah.
all the time. Credit's great. Yeah, you need credit. But there's other things that you need, especially if you're not taking a traditional route.
Mhm.
If you're going to go and try to open a business, you can't just go acquire a business loan. You need time in business. Well, where does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I didn't key in all of these factors. I was just kind of raw.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff was just, you know what I mean?
Yep.
As we muster up. So we did the first build out. It was cool. Shout out to Royal Wheel.
Roy
Shout
Will.
out to John.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really helped me out. Second build out was cool. Shout out to LFJ. Shout out to my man Juan. Third build out, a couple years later, has been,
Is that where it's at now?
that's where it's at right now.
Yeah.
Everything and more. Shout out to my brother
Mhm.
MJ.
Mhm.
He really, he
Go.
put in pain building this thing out, because there's no real blueprint to build out something
That hasn't
like
been done.
that
Yeah.
in a truck. Other people have done it in their own way.
Yeah.
Other people are doing it now in their own way. But this one right here was like him following me into the shop or into where we cut at, and figuring out how I stand, and figure out
Yeah.
where I put my stuff, and
Damn.
figuring out where he puts his stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what it kind of became, and that's what it embodied. But it's always been the spot. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I have a question though. Before we get into you, Sammy, before we touch base on how you got into it, I just have a question because you're talking about taking out over $30,000 cash loan, right?
Yep.
And younger people, when they hear that, scares the shit out of them, right? That's a risk, bro, and that's a risk that when you talked about it, you kind of gaze over a little bit because that's something that's in the past, you've dealt with it, right?
Yeah.
But for someone who's coming up and someone who, in order for them to get themselves to the next step, honestly, I'm asking for myself, to be honest with you, right? When you take that step, like, that's a risk, bro. How do you deal with like knowing that you've just taken that out and you have to, you have not a deadline, but you have a certain amount of time that you need to start, making some real money, start really building a foundation for not only you but your family and other people that rely on you, right? Like, how is that like dealing with that, trying to kind of navigate business life on top of knowing that you got other shit now that's on the table that wasn't the case before, you know? Because that's a big deal. That's a lot of money that people don't even like fathom until you have to do it in order to get yourself to that next level, right? So how do you like kind of manage that?
So like I'd like to say, that I was nervous or scared or something like that, but I really wasn't, just because like I know my will to want, and I know, my resources, and I know my relationships, and I know the way that I look at, uh, you know, the dollar per square footage of the world. You know what I mean? Like the way that I've been looking at things since I started this was like, and corporate offices and corporate world, and businesses that occupy a lot of business in one space, and a lot of dormitory spaces, like that made me look at it in a square footage sense. So I was like, you know what, no matter what I do right now, I can't fail, because I have a product that not everybody can put out,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a sense of convenience that nobody can put out.
Yeah.
So maybe had I been in something a little bit more cookie cutter, I would have been nervous. But now, I will say that not being nervous could be ignorant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At some juncture, because like if you look at it, and you look at the path, and you look at how everything went, and the learning curve and everything about it, um, it's something that I should have been scared about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And this is why I think it's so important to really surround yourself with people that have the same vision as you, and like really mapping out what the vision is. Because when you have that, I feel like that takes a lot of the stress away from those other things like loans and things that people don't think about when you're starting a business. But is when you have the right team around you, and
Team is everything. I was just gonna say team.
exactly.
That's it. So like, as I made mistakes, and I had people that were willing to look at my mistakes, and see both sides of the mistake, and see like the growth
Mhm.
in the lesson, and see
Yep.
stuff like that. Like I really couldn't have done that
Yep.
without my team.
100%.
And it's a very
Absolutely.
small team, but you know,
You
No,
don't, you don't need too many though. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
no, for sure.
No,
You don't need too
100%, bro. I mean, I love that. I mean, you spend some real game right now for people that like don't even understand the difficulties of actually starting a business, right? Everybody, it's easier for somebody who's not easier, but like when you're providing a service, it's not like you need inventory. It's not like you need certain things that you would need if you're selling, goods or whatever someone's niche is, right? So when you're providing a service, it's a little bit different in that aspect. But for people that like are trying to provide like a good or something like an actual item, they don't think about these other things that go into it, right? Like,
No.
Exactly, like loans and, LLCs and, all these other things startup costs, everything, bro, that just goes right over people's heads because they just want to sell things to people and make money. But it's like, it's so much deeper than that. So you're spending real game for people that like really are starting out and have no idea what the ins and outs of actually running a business, which is, I think, is super important for a lot of our younger audience that watch this, because we're not directly, with younger audiences, but I know a lot of younger kids do watch us, and something like that is something that's going to change their mindset on certain things. Like, it's not just cut and dry. You have a product, you sell it. There's so many other avenues and different things you need to worry about that make a business successful besides just whatever you're selling,
100%.
And I think that's super important that you said that aloud.
Especially with, so like, just based on what you're saying, is like, I don't think people are seeing yet. They think right now that you put down that payment for that truck, that Sprinter van, but they didn't see the hours where I was getting cut by you in your garage. And I feel like this is something to bring up and make a point to people out there that are trying to start a business, is that Coco, it wasn't always easy for Coke. Like, I've known Coke when he was cutting in his garage. I was out there, 30-degree weather. He's bringing out his tools. Sammy's there chopping it up with me, and like,
Upside down bucket.
exactly, upside down bucket. And he's genuinely doing it because he loves his clients and he loves to do what he does. And I feel like that is the basis of all this. So it doesn't matter about investments in a Sprinter van, stuff like that. It came from the true love of like what you like to do, and it goes as deep as the fact that you were going out in your garage to cut just a young dude from Waltham that you really owe nothing to, and not just me, but a bunch of people beyond that. You were doing that just out of the greatness of your heart, which is why I feel like you're here today. So just touch on that a little bit too, because I feel like that might be the most important part of this entire process.
Yeah, that was perfect, because that was like the right after everything that I just mentioned. Like, that's where everything started. So like, fast forward, Sammy had just finished up at Malden High School.
Yep.
Um, he was a little bit distraught about what he was gonna do next. He didn't really have like, he's an artist from what I've seen. Like,
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of different like weird things that he's done with art that was like, okay, well, if you could do this the whole time, like why are you hiding this from me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at that point, we're messing around in the garage, and I really my truck was under construction for the final time at this point, I think, and I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have a place to cut. I had a lot of people looking for cuts, and I would go to Los Primos 2. I would go to Los Primos 3. Shout out to Francisco. Shout out to Flo. Man, all the people that took me in while I was, I wasn't doing nothing. Los Compadres Barbershop, who those are an extension of who I started working with,
Yep.
Morenito and Georgie. Georgie's one of my close friends. He was working here, and we do like contract stuff all the time.
Mhm.
That's one of my guys. So I've maintained like a great relationship, which is difficult in the barber world because everybody's so competitive.
Competitive, yeah.
Now, when we were inside the garage at this point, it was still competitive because social media has become more prominent,
Yeah.
and we're giving out cuts that are fire. We're taking care of celebrities in
Yeah.
the garage. Like it was a different vibe. Like any given day, DB knows he could come into the shop or come by the house, excuse me,
Garage.
and yeah,
Garage,
the
bro.
garage,
Yeah.
and there was you don't know who you were gonna see
Yeah.
there or what was going but
Yeah.
it was just a vibe, and everybody was accepting, and nobody was gawking over anybody. It was great. It was awesome times, and it was also a place where this is key. Like this is like one of the biggest things for me, and I'll always stress this, and I'll always remember what it was like to put like a little bit more like character on what I was doing, and it was the team aspect. So I have friends, I have people that I know. I know a lot of people,
Mhm.
but when somebody could finally come in and respect what I was doing, embody what I was doing, pay attention to what I was doing, not judge me when I was doing wrong
Mhm.
or when I was saying wrong.
Yep.
But take everything with a grain of salt and be able to absorb a lot of the great focal points and to mix his humbleness and his characteristics in with it, and to literally just spit out the perfect version of what I
Yeah.
felt like I could have been.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I always spit this at him about service, and I'm more of a person that has always been about execution, quality, finished product, but I'm raw. Like, my service skills, they could have been better. They could
Mhm.
have been better. And I was just so, you know what I mean? I was really cut and dry. I learned a certain way. I learned from certain type of characters. So he was able to take his calm, his patience, and really put it in full motion and hone my skill and my methodology, and kind of like my quirks and all the things that I thought were wrong about this industry that people are looking at one way, and I'm looking at it in a complete different way.
Yeah.
So that's where shit got really special for me. Knowing that I had somebody
Mhm.
that was gonna finally help me build and develop something outside of one chair.
Yeah.
And a lot about business that I didn't understand was units and numbers and gross and all this thing. Some of these things I'm still learning as we speak. And when I found out that I can't do it alone, I had to cut everybody. The demand was so high. At some point, why did I make Mobar if I'm the guy?
Exactly.
Everybody wants Coco.
Yeah.
So I took a hiatus. I went from, and this was where I kind of didn't understand how my mind was working at the time. And I will give a lot of credit to music again, Nipsey Hussle, and his whole proud to pay movement, and really paying attention to stuff like that. I'm from the East, but my three real goats are like from the West Side.
Yeah.
Tupac, Nipsey, and Kobe.
Kobe.
Like, so yeah, since the first time I ever played in a pair of Kobe's, 2009, in the Kobe 4. Ever since then, I never ever stopped wearing Kobe's. Even RIP up to this date. My
Yep.
son just got a pair from StockX. It's
Damn.
expensive, but his first pair
Top dollar, yeah.
for YBA travel was a
Yeah.
pair of Kobe's.
He doesn't understand how important that is,
He's
though, to
looking
you, right?
clean
That's the
out
crazy
there.
part.
No,
And
I
that's
think-
something you can explain to him when he gets older,
I've
bro.
been trying to push it into
Yeah.
him, but Jalen wore the same Kobe's against the Warriors the other night.
Yeah.
That was tough. But yeah. So like that's really been significant to me. All of that.
I want to get into you, Sammy. So obviously we've been talking about Coco and how he's come up and kind of, built everything that we're looking at right now. And you were kind of there watching the whole thing happen, right?
Right.
And I want to get your point of view from it because, the way I knew you back in middle school and high school and stuff, I didn't know you had any idea or any, ambition to be a barber or anything like that, right? So when was it more like watching him kind of, progress and grow and grow this business and wanting to get into that, or was it just your artistic side that wanted you to kind of maybe try something new, try something that maybe you weren't as good at first that you want to get better at? Like, kind of take us through that journey and how you kind of got to where you're at now, which is pretty much leading this place, as his first right-hand man.
Right. So for me, it was like I always liked art
Yeah.
from the jump. I like fashion. I like art. I like all that type of stuff. And my ambitions were like I wanted to do a lot of stuff, but my ceiling was very like low. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in high school. I'm just finished my senior year. I'm working at fucking Panera Bread. Like
Grinding.
yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my bro here, my brother here. He's he's moving. He has a vision. He has an idea. He got some love from the city. He's doing his thing. So every day after school, I'm going to him and I'm looking like, damn. So he's doing this thing by himself. Like he could use some help, right?
Mhm.
So then one day he brings it to me. He's like, yo, I think you don't really have an idea what you want to do yet. I kind of have an idea. I got a vision. Why don't we come together and we try to like make something happen? So that was the day of my graduation. So the day of my graduation, we're sitting there, we're talking about it. I'm like, you know what? I'm on board. I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
So I call my boss. I'm like, yo, I quit. Find
Yeah.
somebody to make
Right.
Just like that?
Yeah, just
Right
like
away.
that.
Wow.
You remember
That's a
that?
story.
That's a
Call
story.
me, like,
Wow.
I told him, I was like, you gonna keep going to that fucking job? He's like, just it's a check.
It's a check. It's a
So
check.
that's the thing. I feel like I was so comfortable with that, weekly check or
Yeah.
bi-weekly check that it's like you get in that comfort zone and you don't want to leave that because you're scared to like, take the risk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the biggest thing is like you got to take a risk. Always.
Absolutely.
Like
bro.
if you want to make something for yourself, you have to take a risk.
Yeah. And I think that's super important, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think too many younger kids like even understand how
Right.
difficult that change is, right? Because you're saying it and you're kind of just, you're not saying it how
Yeah.
you really felt during that time, right? Because I know that's a difficult decision to make when you're making comfortable money
Right.
and you're doing something that's simple,
Right.
like working at Panera and having to dive yourself into a craft that takes a long time to
Mhm.
get good at, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It takes a long time to craft those skills and be to the point where you're at now. And like, I think by you telling these kids, like, you just got to take that risk is so important. That one kid that maybe hear that is working at Dunkin' Donuts or whatever the hell the case
and
is.
I hope I could, reach out to that one kid that's working at Foot Locker or wherever it may
Yeah.
be, like take that risk.
That story is so important,
definitely
bro. That story is so important. I think like that more kids need to hear that side. And
Right.
like, but when did it become like, all right, this is what I'm going to do with my life? Like, when did you like really start honing in those crafts and those skills?
It was
in the
really
chair.
I feel like it was really right when I quit that, I quit the job and I was like, I'm all in now. Like it's either, go big or go home type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So every day after school, like I wouldn't make a lot of money, but I was going every day after school or after, like whatever I had to do, I had to go. I would go to Coco's and I would go to the garage and I would just go day after day, just even if I made a little bit of money or just enough to eat or enough for my gas. Like for me, it was more so about what I could do in the long run rather than what I could make this week,
Yeah, man.
So for me, it wasn't about the money. It was more about like the long run, like at the end,
That's super important.
Take
bro.
us through that process also, bro, because Coke was really hard on you at one point, bro.
It was.
Like,
So
because I'd be getting cut in the garage, right?
Yeah.
And like you would be practicing on
Yeah.
practiced on me a
Yeah,
couple
yeah,
times.
Appreciate
And
that.
Coke was really hard on you, bro.
Yeah, he
And like,
was.
but
So-
you always took it with a grain of salt, and you were just willing to learn.
right.
I want to pick your brain in terms of like, how did you feel going through that process of like, Coke was being hard on you, but you took it in such a good manner,
right.
and then you grew from it. Like, I just want to hear a little bit about that as well.
And then can I just go on top of that question too? Was there ever a point where it got too much, and you ever felt like you hit a dead end, or I like to call it like a dead end attitude, where like I don't know if this is for me, right?
Right.
Did it
Well,
ever
so
turn into
that
that?
self-doubt, that's like a big thing. I always had I always wanted to do it, and I had like that doubt in the back of my mind, like, damn, I can't do this, or damn, I'm not good enough. So I always like tried to shake it, and he was tough on me, but to be honest, that's like my brother. So he,
100%.
he was tough on me all the time, but brush it off, just stay down, stay humble, take everything like you said with a grain of salt. hone in your craft and just keep at it every day. That's what I did. Really, I just kept at it all the time.
And
I
what
never
was
gave
your
up.
mindset, being the figure there and saying, "Hey, I gotta really clamp down on this dude because I want him to be great."
So I will say this first. My mentors were harsh on me. And like I had a debate the other day at the barbershop with one of my mentors, and he then took credit for what has grown to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll give him some for
Yeah,
sure. I'll give
of
him a
course.
lot.
Yeah.
But not all.
Not all.
Not all. So it was kind of one of those things where I hated the fact that it made me look like I was more harsh because his receptiveness, like the way that he took it, was not like somebody who, per se, like one of my other friends who's very combative. So like, I was thinking, because maybe that's what I'm used to or whatever. Like, I was thinking that because he was not responsive of my intensity,
Mhm.
or how I call it the passion that
Yeah.
I really
That's
had
That's what it
behind
is. That's
bro.
what it
what
is.
I wanted him to
all
learn
it
and
is.
my focal points and everything about it. And sometimes the way that I speak can be like a little bit much, but almost like my mom always laughs at me. She's like, you think you're an activist? Like, you think you're a preacher, pastor, Mr. Preacher Man?
Yeah.
And so it's like, so I know that could be a bit much, but he knows all of my demeanor. I'm a softie, you know what I'm saying? Like the way that I really felt about the delivery was different than the way that it sounded. So I was really upset at the fact that he didn't respond. But now that I'm dealing with my 10-year-old, who is, he's his sister's kid as well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to see that, maybe they have a lot of qualities and characteristics that are similar, because on the basketball court, when I teach my son, everything that I say to him, he's taken in, but he never responds. And I'm, damn it, say something to
Yeah,
me.
right.
And that's how it was with him. Bro,
Yeah.
just say something back. Give me some feedback, letting me know that I'm getting in on you and that what I'm telling you is something that we can snowball up and create something from.
Yeah.
But he did it his own way.
Mhm.
He did it, and he created it his own way.
Mhm.
And like I would love to sit here and tell you that it was all mine, but no, like it was just the tools, and he just really made me look good. Because if anybody else were to be able to grab my format and what I was spewing and clean it up and hone it and make it everything that it was supposed to be, there it was.
Yeah.
I love that.
No, that's awesome, bro. And I think, like, even if, I just think the way you guys' personalities mend, right? Even if you weren't family, it would still,
Yeah,
it would,
I'm up
we're
here,
like,
he's
yeah,
down
we're like
there,
yin
like,
and yang.
but I even, yeah, like, it would
Together.
still work though in some way, because
Yeah.
like you said, you're quiet, you're soft spoken,
Yeah.
but whatever you're hearing, you're taking in, you know
Right.
what I mean? And I think, a lot of times, like, I'm not a mentor to nobody, but like if I was, and that was my student or whatever whatever you want to say it, or however you want to classify it would be tough for me to kind of know that whatever I'm saying is getting through to them if they're not reciprocating, like, with words, or with the way that I feel like I would reciprocate those
Yeah,
those
for
words,
sure.
or
And
whatever it is.
and I'll speak to the student side and the mentor side and mentee side. And really, it's like at some juncture, after the whole, like, skills and like actual layout of cutting hair,
Yeah.
at no point could I call him a student, because I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
Mutual.
Right.
I think that's awesome that you just said that. I think too. 'Cause I
That's-
don't know if you've ever said that to him, but that's awesome that you just
No,
said
of
that.
course.
'Cause
I mean,
that's super important to,
I'm
like.
pretty transparent, but I don't know if he knows that. Like, I don't know if he really takes heed to that. But like, there's been some questionable times, and sometimes where, again, ambition and temptation and certain things get involved in overcoming your life. And when you see somebody who has gone through everything that you can go through,
Mhm.
from the bottom of the bottom to coming now to what I consider at his age the top of the top,
Absolutely.
the cream of the crop. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely, bro.
that's how I look at him.
Yeah.
And that's how I think a lot of, especially his clientele base, looks at him, and his family looks at him, and you know what I mean. That's a special thing.
Mhm.
So like, he taught me a lot too. He that when I'm up here and sometimes
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that.
That breaking down of your ego,
Yeah,
bro, is
bro,
super
like,
important
you know,
sometimes, man.
Yeah, for
Or
sure.
even sometimes like building him up. Sometimes he's down on himself, or he used to be down on himself
And he'll
more,
just
and we just kind of like build off of each other like that. You know, like, yo,
and
don't be like that. We
he's
need
not
to-
a man of so many words, so when he says it,
means a lot.
Yeah, man.
yeah,
It's good to
bro.
have somebody, you know,
breathe.
like it's good to go at it alone, you know, but it's always good to have somebody in your corner too.
Absolutely, bro.
That's what a
feel like,
partnership should be, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
But that's how I know we built something special. Like
you need that.
you know, this is fun fact. Like, you know, I'm not boasting or anything like that. And there's a lot of great barbershop businesses, bro, in Waltham, in this quarter, in this everywhere that we're at. There's a lot of people that have dedicated the entirety of, you know, their great years to what this is right now.
Mhm.
And in the small time that we've been manipulating our area in this force, like we just were acknowledged and named best barbershop of Waltham 2022.
Can we give a round of applause for that for a second? I don't think people understand how many barbershops that have been here. Not even like not just barbershops, but barbershops that are established and have been here in this area.
From the mud.
And the fact that that's the case, bro, is like truly inspiring. But keep touching base because that is fucking
Cheers to that.
awesome.
Cheers to that.
Because that is
Cheers.
huge,
Cheers
man.
to that.
Congratulations,
Yeah,
boys.
man,
That's
that meant a
incredible,
lot
bro.
to me,
From the
especially
bottom.
knowing that two of my mentors and a couple of guys that I really look up to are three barbershop owners on Moody Street that have really shaped a whole lot of this stuff, and
Yeah.
they really shaped a lot of the culture. But in that same certain way, I kind of just piggybacked off of what they started, and I wanted to shape it further. So, you know, with that being said, you know, winning that award and stuff like that, and being acknowledged in that type of way in a random light, you know what I'm saying? Like that was the bigger part. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, go vote for me.
You never got into this for that.
No, not at all, not at all. You know, but did I know I was going to be that, or we were going to be that? I knew that.
That was the vision.
100%, because I just felt like that there was qualities that we all had and attributes and will to want and something that he mentioned was like he sacrificed wage. Like people in this world are not willing
They're
to
just trying to get that,
sacrifice
yeah,
wage.
that
If you
money.
can sacrifice wage for knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and you know you can really put in that pain, perseverance, eventually you know you're gonna make yourself obsolete, because if there's a million people doing what you do.
And you're talking about all that. So all that pain and perseverance you have gone through, right?
I've gone through. I've watched him go through. We've all gone through. We've gone through together. We've gone through apart. Like
Mm-hmm.
But like, talk to us now about, because let's just get this out here. Like, now you're working with the Celtics, right?
Mhm.
You're the barber of the Celtics, Boston Celtics, official barber. I think we can call you that now.
Are you the official stylist or the official barber?
so, I'd like to consider myself an image consultant. And
Image
I, you know,
consultant.
I, had
I
this
like
conversation-
that.
The
I
image
like
consultant
that.
of the
I have
Bo-
this-
of the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, and I won't say official. I'll say that you know it's an ongoing battle, but I will
Yeah.
say I'm the unofficial, because you know I'm not, you know, on paperwork with the Boston Celtics, but in terms of every person that's on the team, you know, without maybe two or three, and then a lot of the staff. Like I don't cut Sam Hauser, Jason Tatum's whole family, or anybody that comes into town gets cut by me.
Mhm.
But he has a barber who he's been dealing with since he was 7 years old. Doesn't mean that I haven't cut JT. I cut JT a million times.
Yep.
I've cut him in my backyard. I've cut him in my truck. I've cut him in the barbershop. I cut him before the boat. Like, you know what I mean? But we have a mutual respect. His trainer is one of my close friends. He's one of the people that has seen the struggle in my growth
Mhm.
up and within the organization. This year is a year where I'm really starting to get a lot more respect and acknowledgement. COVID really put a stamp and a stain on things. I was out of the building for 2 years, so you know that made things really difficult. But honestly, bro, like shout out to the Celtics. Not only shout out to the Celtics organization, but shout out to the Celtics players. Shout out to anybody who's put on a jersey that has helped keep my legacy alive, or keep me inside here and make sure that I'm the most prominent, or who has acknowledged my work enough to say, and I can say this, you know, like if you pay attention to social media, or if you look at anything that's gone on over the past 8 years, like you've never seen a client in green that has came to me and then become someone else's client.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it
It's
happen.
real. Yeah.
But in many other circumstances, it has been vice versa.
Mhm.
So, you know, I take pride in being somebody that's been able to just constantly lock in. And I got to give a lot of appreciation to Marcus Smart. I got to give a lot of appreciation to Terry Rozier. I got to give $1 million worth of appreciation this year to Dame Stoudemire,
Mhm.
Grant Williams. Like, you know, the list goes on. Kemba Walker, Kyrie Irving, all these great guys, all the way down to Peyton Pritchard, Aaron Nesmith, everybody that's on the team right now, everybody that's been traded, Daniel Tice, everybody, they've all played like a pivotal role. Daniel Tice's transition from getting traded to coming back and making me solidify to his barber, that spoke volumes about my work and what I was doing. And all of this stuff just became instrumental into where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And you know, I haven't really taken it as like, you know, a super like star striking thing. So I just kind of like I was originally like a sneakerhead and a hoop fan, and I always wanted to, if you look at my middle school yearbook, I wanted to be in the NBA. So like this was my way to make it to the NBA. I always told myself I was gonna do something bigger. So I'm right now I'm in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's awesome,
You know what I
man.
mean?
Can we go back though, because you're touching base on different players and different people in the organization. Who was? I know this might be tough to even put like one specific thing on, but who was the first person from the organization that gave their trust into you, and how did it spiral into where you're at now, which is you're going to the facility, you know these guys personally. People once they get traded come back, like you're saying, like all these different things that go into it that like people understand. You created a real dynamic with this team. How did that even begin, and how did it get to where it is now?
So
Quickly, if you could.
yeah, I'll say the first person that, shout out to Marshawn Brooks and Jordan Crawford. Those guys, legends.
Oh, geez.
Super,
Wow.
super OG legends.
geez.
Those are some of the guys that I really cut first that made me understand that that's what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And then, you know, go on a hiatus for a year and a half or so. And, you know, it's funny how the world works, but Marshawn Brooks and Terry Rozier actually have a great relationship. They actually share the same agent.
Oh shit. Okay.
So, fast forward down the lane, I'm randomly playing basketball with my boy that used to be part of that whole group, like Terry, one of Terry's people.
Mhm.
And he asked me like, "What do I do?" And I said, "I cut hair. Like, you know, I don't play basketball or anything like that." So he was like, "Oh, I need a barber." The person that was cutting their hair at the time was really busy, and, you know, whatever he had going on. So I ended up coming to take care of them. And when I went in the mobile barbershop, and it was something he hadn't seen before. So, you know, aside from being like outside of like the nightclubs and stuff like that and advertising it, this was like the first rollout. This was the beginning of it. So when I cut Terry, he started to pass my name down the line to Marcus, to Jalen, you know, to some of the younger players like that. But
This is when they were young
this
too,
was,
right?
yeah,
This is when they weren't.
really young.
Yeah,
So I was
who they.
cutting, you know, right when Marcus's like end of rookie, beginning of his second year. This is when I started cutting him. Yeah, second year. This was his second year because T-Row was like he had just came in. It was when he hit that big shot in the G League.
Yeah.
So
Did T-Row get drafted before Marcus?
no, after.
After, right? A year after. Okay.
But T-Row was more of the catalyst. Or Marshawn, T-Row, or more of-
Marshawn, T-Row, boom, but when T-Row passed the info on to Marcus and Jalen, you know, it kind of like down the line ended up being a really heavy weight.
Mhm.
But Terry was like, you know, one of the first people that I really cut that helped open that door. But into solidifying into the organization and making it so, like, you know, at some point, me and my wife were going to work out with the Celtics for like training camp. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
It's so crazy,
like
man.
I wish there was video footage of it. There might be.
Yeah.
But you know, my wife had the weight vest and she was keeping up in a workout with Marcus, and I had threw up on the run that we did.
You
Like,
threw up?
Yeah, I threw
nah.
up. I was trying to keep up with Terry, you know, and man, listen, I threw up
The
outside.
workouts are legit, though.
Yeah, this was when they were in Waltham, so I was all through the facility. I kind of got to see the first time that Kyrie, Daniel Tice, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, like they were all in the gym at the same time.
And before people ask why they were in Waltham, Boston Sports Club in Waltham is where they used to practice, right?
Shout
so I
out
don't
to
think people
Health Point.
understand. They just
Health
know about
Point,
the Outback
baby.
Center and
Yeah,
over there in
Health
Boston.
Point,
but nah.
Health Point was the OG.
Yeah.
So that's that was like the gist of it. Like we used to go over there all the time. That was like home. It was amazing. My journey with the Celtics and with the players, and I speak a lot on client base and retention, and that's because to do something the way that I've been doing it and the way that we've been doing it is special because these people get traded all the time. I've been through like some serious heartfelt pain,
Yeah, man.
until I started to really cope with the fact that I just got a friend in a different city.
Yeah.
Now now things look a little bit different. But man, I've had some tough trades, man. Like the Kyrie trade for me, even though he was tough in Boston, like at that time for everybody, that Kyrie trade for me was crazy because that was my guy.
There's your guy, yeah.
And let me ask you specifically on Kyrie because I know a lot of the viewers are probably more geared towards how was he cutting Kyrie. I want to know how did that originate? Who put you on to Kai? And like how did that situation unravel? Because I'm sure a lot of people watching this are
As
huge
soon as they hear Kyrie
fans.
Irving, their ears stick up. They're like,
Yeah,
Kyrie
there's,
Irving.
There's a lot of buzz around
you know
him.
what I
Even
mean?
even
So-
now, there's a lot of.
So
buzz
I'm
around
in East
him.
Boston.
Because you cut his fro. People
Yeah.
don't know you cut his fro. Which
Fro
is,
Kyrie, you
Yeah,
changed
yeah.
the game, bro.
Changed
He
the
was
game.
playing better once you cut the fro.
Yeah, I was in East Boston at the Paris Street Gym, and I was playing basketball in a league game. Shout out to Co-op, and one of Marcus's friends was on the sideline with my phone, and he goes, "Go! IT just got traded." I threw my jersey off. I was so happy. I love IT.
yeah.
It was great watching IT, but IT was putting restraint on what I could achieve and accomplish. Him and G Green shared the same barber.
Yeah.
So although I was cool with them, I couldn't take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited. Now fast forward, Kyrie comes in.
Mhm.
Kyrie ends up with a barber right away. Don't know how it happens, whatever. Couple weeks, couple months in, I'm seeing his best friend around, and I'm trying to figure out. He gets. There's actually a video of this, but he got cut before opening day, and he had no facial hair, and he had this like squared line up, and no nothing towards the barber because once I got to know Kyrie, like he wasn't asking for prominent shit.
Yeah.
Kyrie wanted a haircut that was like kind of basic. So I was kind of stuck in that limbo where, damn, like this dude just got traded here, and now he got a whole nother barber. Like, here we go, back to the grind now. And so one of his best friends, who became one of my closest friends, like one of my guys, even though he's not living in Waltham or in Boston now, Al. I met Al, and Al started getting cut by me. He was like, yo, he started telling Kai, like, yo, Kai, you gotta get cut by this dude. He really can cut. Kai's like, man, I'm good with what I'm doing. And at some point, Kai and his barber had a discrepancy on what he told me was over literally $100. So it was like, the barber felt like the travel from where he was going to where he was at, and this is warranted. He was right. He shouldn't have been getting $100 to go from where he was at to where he was going.
Yeah.
Now, Kai just wasn't a fan of the fact that probably that person, was looking at it in such a monetary way and not knowing the love that Kai could show. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where I came into play. And Al was like, yo, listen, you got your shot. Pull up. I came through. I'm thinking, I'm going to blaze Kai. I'm going to give Kai the best cut in the world. Nope. Kai wants a 1, all even.
Wow.
No lineup.
No lineup.
So
No,
then,
what?
no lineup, bro. 1, all even. Here you go, Cole. Nice to meet you. Boom.
Now, did you first cut him with the fro, or was he growing at that
No,
point?
he when he first got here, he had a low cut.
He had a low cut, right?
Nah.
Yeah.
Then when I start cutting him, he starts growing his hair a little bit more. Then we start to experiment a little bit with his hair growing. Then we start to experiment with his hair growing and doing a taper. Now he's going out into things that he doesn't do.
Yeah.
Taper, line up with the fro. Okay, cool. Then he tells me, yo, Cole, let's fuck the internet up. Let's cut the fro off.
Take the whole
So
thing.
he's not playing well. He's averaging whatever. I cut the fro off. Next game, he tells me, yo, go. I'm going off.
boom, 25 right out the gate. He's averaging 25 for a couple games, and that's kind of like where Bleacher Report picked it up. But yeah, like that was a pretty prominent time, and what I had realized, and everybody has their own thoughts or whatever on Kai, but like he really took care of me. You know what I mean? Like he really poured into me as somebody that he wanted to be an asset of their camp and
Yeah.
know what they were doing. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
And on taking all this stuff that media says about him aside, right? Like you know him on a personal level, and I think that's where people get this whole misconception on who he is as a person, right? Like you know him as an individual, not as what the masses see him. And I think you shining light on the fact that like he showed love to you, no disrespect, but when he had no reason to, right? Is
Yeah,
like
for sure.
takes it's a big account to his character and who
Yeah.
he is as a person. I think that's what a lot of people need to start saying about him, right? Because I don't, everyone has their own opinion on, like
it's
you
gonna be
said,
an
but
intimate opinion only. Like
yeah,
somebody you won't get that from anybody he doesn't directly deal with.
no, that's true.
I don't even blame the masses. I just and then sometimes he doesn't put himself in the best situations.
Yeah, no,
That's
keep your
it.
mouth shut.
Yeah, that's
But
it.
it was Sammy, right? Real quick, because like I don't know if you were fully engulfed in the
Fully.
field. You were fully engulfed in that
Fully.
field at that time, right? So
Yeah.
what was it
flying
like?
with me?
Really?
Flying with me to New York when he got traded. Like
Yep.
every time I flew to New York, he was
He
with
was
me.
right there.
We were going to Brooklyn.
So what was that like, bro? Like, because you're someone who's new to this game, right? He's been in this game for, we're talking a decade at this point. We're talking a decade. You're talking a year, 2 years, 3 years. I don't know how long
Right.
exactly. But when you see that, like, what did that just light another fire under your ass, or was this intimidating? What was that like? Was it like this is where I want to be, or is it like I need to work my ass off to get to this point? Like,
Right.
how did that
So-
change everything?
So at this point, I already have like a little clientele.
Yeah.
We're buzzing, we're making moves in the city. He's going to Brooklyn all the time. He's telling me, "Oh, you want to come with me? All right, bet I come with you." And no, it was really cool. I was already all in, but then when I really started seeing like the whole aspect of it, oh, you could be friends with this person, you could be friends with that person. Like you could take this more than barbering. It's more everything's relationships. So being around that and seeing this, and I'm only what 20. I'm young to 20s. Like I'm seeing all this, the whole world, and I'm like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was like almost like it gave me like a boost.
So it never intimidated you. It never was like, oh shit, like I'm not good, I'm not qualified enough to cut them.
I can't say that.
You never thought about that.
No, because it wasn't even about them or who it was. To me, it was like just even doing a haircut. I was so
Yeah.
nervous from the beginning. Every time you get out of your comfort zone, you're scared to venture out. But it's not about always being comfortable. It's about trying to be as comfortable as you can in given the circumstances.
Yeah,
I
bro.
think also having him around
Oh, this
was
yeah.
that crutch you needed,
Yeah, this is
right?
my
To
crutch,
hold on
yeah,
to and be
yeah.
like, and like just having that person there to be like, nah, bro, like you're fucking legit.
Yeah, and-
like just be that guy.
And like
and
I
don't
always
fucking
spewed that
don't
to
give
him,
off
too.
energy
Yeah.
like you're nervous or nothing because you need to play
Yeah.
that role.
You
like
do
you're
what
that
I do.
guy.
Yeah.
You do what I do.
He's that guy. You're just as much that guy.
Right.
And that's what's important.
Exactly.
Going off that though, did you ever feel pressure when you were cutting like high status people like that? I don't even want to say player, like just people, individuals in general,
for a
right?
certain small amount of time, and then mostly on first encounter. But like after a certain point, especially dealing with Kai and guys like that, I started cutting in a lot of circumstances that were like dark hotel rooms and just cutting on the fly, cutting with no mirror. So just understanding what I understood and knowing what I knew, my focal points, like I became really, really difficult to to fail. Like in the haircut, I was rarely ever getting the feedback of like, yo, oh, you need to ooh, or you need to ooh, or
Mhm.
oh, yo, bro, looks great. And then after the shower, oh, wow, thank you. You know what I mean? So in different circumstances, I was able to hold my composure. So I knew that, again, all of the things that I spewed to him, they were all kind of like easy to take in if you weren't focused on the cut and dry aspect of what the job was.
Yeah.
There's really focal points and contour and symmetry and pressure. A lot of pressure and like sometimes you do something soft and you cut hard. There's blunt. There's just a whole bunch of things that go into this, that words that you mentioned that have nothing to do with cutting hair.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a bunch of stuff that I put together, and I took it and it became something really raw. And so like to look at him and say like, how could you not do it, knowing that? And I bring this into
like the development stages of how I got myself to where I wanted to be. Because, in the garage, not at the barbershop, not where, you had to come find me on Google. No, you were paying my apprentice barber $40 to give you a cut. The person that I'm giving my craft to $40 a cut. You only paid me 50, but you're still paying him $40 a cut. So now I'm like, okay, well, I've got a clientele that's willing to come to me, and they're willing to pay me almost double what they're paying at the barbershop. So as I developed and built my clientele and gave him tips on those clients, some of those clients then became his clients. And when I cut clients out and I stopped taking clients for a month, they would all be like, okay, what's my best option? What am I going to go get messed up somewhere else?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go somewhere where they understand.
If you trust them,
my hair.
they trust them. Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And so, my bad, bro. that hiatus, I took a hiatus for a little bit, like a month or so, and I kind of like gave up my clientele, so they had to all get cut by him.
Yeah.
So when I came back, I went up $10 and $15 more in price. Now I did that 3 more times until I got it to a place where I felt respectable about my time. You know what I'm saying? And it not only did I went up in price and dictated and changed my price and kind of like orchestrated and re-instrumented my clientele so many times in such a small window, DB can attest to, that it was like, wow, like, like I'm really seeing the power and the value of how few and far between I am. You know what I mean? And it also put a lot of value on him, which then placed even more value on the person that came in right after him, Carlos. And next thing you know, like we're at a steady price point where when I bring owners of barbershops in, my boy who owns Compadre's Barbershop, Georgie, he came to work with me. And he came to work with me for a good amount of time. We still do work together. You know what I mean? Like it helped open his eyes, and he talks a lot about like some of the best moves that he made, and a lot of them was coming and just spotting at my barbershop and coming to work with me and understanding that this is like a gravitational place. This is a place for growth. The more that I was looking at people growing, I knew that it was going to grow me. The more that I encouraged them to come up to where I'm at, the more that it's going to grow us and we. And the strength comes in the unity of our industry.
Yep.
And was the importance on growth, because I know that you guys are big on that. Where does Mobar go from here? So we don't even need to put a time frame on it, right? Just like where do both of you envision this movement going? What's the
Because, and this is an important question too, because a lot of people look at your business and where you guys are at now as the pinnacle. You guys are at the top of the game, right?
Yeah,
you're cutting the best of the best. People that people only see on TV screens, right? And like to them, that's like unachievable. You're at the top of the game. Where do you go from here, right?
So right now, I think that it's scale and volume. It's taking an industry that's really been at like the poorer side of the public eye. We're not deemed what was it that the government called us, essential.
Essential, right? Yeah.
So maybe people think that we're not essential as well, but I think that what's next for Mobar as a personal and as an experience and as a whole and as a lifestyle and as a barbershop and as a community pillar and as a lily pad for athletes and people and lifestyle and health and wealth and growth. I think that there's really no one answer, but in the terms of my mobile barbershop, I'm looking to do more mobile expansion now that corporate offices are back open post COVID. So I'm getting everything in order to really show and prove that model. There's other people that are trying to do something like what I've mustered up, and I respect that. It's going to help me grow in my industry, and I just want to keep focusing and targeting on the tech side of barbering because it's a great industry, but I think that the brick and mortar around us, it's
limiting.
It's starting to be limiting, and for what people are looking to get out of their quality of life, I think that the scale of the barbershop on you, the toll of it is just a lot.
Mhm.
So that's one of my big things. And just to continue to raise the bar on the standard of quality as the industry innovates, I'd like to continue to have my guys and the people that I work with be on the top frontier of that. So
Love that.
like I said, there's really no barrier to the growth and the things that I got in mind. I'm just really proud of where it's come, and I'm proud of the resources and relationships and the partnerships and the Vistaprint. Shout out to Vistaprint. Like Vistaprint has been instrumental in my life, not only tying things in with the Celtics and giving me strength and I guess you can call it numbers, as cliche as it may be, but they put me in a public spotlight. They've made my small business, my again, shout out to my three barbers, me and my three barbers, a 4-man team who's the best barbershop of Waltham, the unofficial barbershop of the Boston Celtics. Like, Vistaprint has really tied all of that stuff in and allowing me to be one of the people that they saw as an ambassador from the beginning. One of the first 30 brand partners with them.
Yeah.
So, that's it, man. I really give my thanks to God and my family and my team and.
And I wanted to have this one last thought because, like, I just want to say this, and you can say whatever you want at the end, Darren. But I think you guys, being from Waltham, knowing you guys personally, right, and kind of seeing, obviously growing up with you and seeing how much this has grown, right, I think it's such an inspiration to people, not only from this city, but in New England and in general, from the 617 or just all up and down this area, right, because you get limited to this east side of the country where, like, you don't feel like everything's possible. Anything's possible, really. I mean, not anything, but it just seems so limited based on resources and whatever you got going around you. And I think you guys being a catalyst for starting from nothing and seeing where you guys are at right now. I honestly, this isn't even for the viewer. This is for me personally. Like, having this conversation with you guys, I haven't seen this other side of you guys, and hearing this story, like, it's so inspirational. I think so many people are going to watch this and take gain from it and really use it to their advantage, because it's just so important, just the entire story surrounding where you guys came from and where you guys are at now. It's so important for people to hear that. So I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for even sitting down and talking with us. This is a privilege for us, and I can't even imagine where you guys are going to go in the future. I hope that we can collab again at some point. But sure, you guys are
100%.
You guys are honestly inspirations to everyone in this city, seeing where you guys are at now and where they're at, and seeing where they can take wherever they want to do, whatever they want to do, any service, any good, anything, where they can go, bro. Honest to God. And I don't know if you want to say anything, but that's my final thoughts on this whole thing.
No, I mean, he touched on that well. I think I've known you guys personally for a long time now. Like, you've been cutting me from the jump. Sammy, I've known you since middle school, and like, from jump, we're brothers, but we respect you on such a high level.
No,
like, we know that you put on for the city, you put on for your family, and it's all out of genuine love for who you're providing the service for. And I just want you guys to know, like, we are trying to emulate what you guys have brought to this city, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, thank you so much for
and you guys do that for more than just us. Like, you guys do that for the community as a whole, and everyone is looking at you. You guys are leaders in the industry, leaders in our city. So, like, we couldn't thank you guys enough for even sitting down with us and taking that time to do that.
That's what keeps us going.
We respect you guys not only on a personal level, but on everything you do. Like, we want to emulate your success. So
absolutely, we really do, bro. And when we first started this podcast, bro, you guys were, honest to God, the first people that we wanted on this shit, bro. And we thank you guys for taking some time to sit down with us, Sammy.
Thank you, man.
Honest to God, bro.
Episode 5.
That's episode 5 in the books.
That's a wrap.
That's a legendary
Mobar
episode right
cut.
there, bro. Whiskey's hitting.
You could dream, you could do it.
And nobody doing it like us.